So I want to do a quick video about your interest in running for public office because I know you watch my videos and you hear the tagline, "The future belongs to those who show up." And then when I produce a video about a political position where, so far at least, nobody has decided to run for that office, well, you might feel motivated to jump in and run yourself. Now, for local school board races and other kind of entry-level political positions, this sometimes works. However, for higher profile political positions, it usually benefits you a bit if you carefully consider the political landscape, maybe just a little bit, before you decide to jump right in. Now, I'm producing this video just a few weeks before the Washington State filing week, which is the second week in May, and that date becomes kind of this drop-dead deadline for getting your name on the primary election ballot in August. And yes, we can discuss what a write-in campaign actually looks like if you miss that deadline, but honestly, if you think you might run for office, it's just an order of magnitude easier to do so if your name's actually on the ballot. Now, if you don't live in Washington State, the rules in your state might be just a little bit different. Although I believe the thought process and the planning part outlined in this video is going to be very helpful and apply to you as well. Now, I have a very clear and open motive for producing a video just like this. First, it's because I care about liberty and freedom, and I hope to encourage and support others who care about the same issues to get into political office. Secondly, I want people to make the decision to run for public office with the best foundation for success that they can have. It isn't easy under the best of circumstances to run for public office and spend a year of your spend a whole year of your life basically campaigning and then you lose dramatically. It's not fun. Most people get discouraged by that experience, and if you keep losing your political races, you should perhaps step back with some self-reflection and consider why the repeat failures. Now, there are people who will be more successful in the long run if they plan and they prepare better in advance rather than just follow impulsive visions at the very last minute. Now, hey, I understand miracles can certainly happen. I've witnessed a few of them myself, but you increase the likelihood that your campaign can become one of those miracles if you are willing to lay a pretty good foundation in advance of the campaign itself. So running for a political office like the state legislature, Congress, statewide positions, and even countywide positions, if it's a big county, usually takes a bit more planning and preparation if you actually want to win. Now, I realize that some people don't want to win, and I fully recognize that there are actually even maybe times when people run for office and their motives and goals, they may have little to do with actual political victory in the end. And I guarantee you, and please understand that this is true, it isn't as easy or simple as it might look from the outside. Now, I don't care how smart, hardworking, good-looking, or wealthy that you might be. You might have a 100-point plan with full analysis of policy positions, and that's great. But successful campaigns are far more than this. Anyone can certainly lose a political campaign. That's actually pretty simple and very easy to do. However, if you want to win, it isn't so easy most of the time. And I find this particularly true if you care about freedom and liberty and therefore are a perceived threat to kind of the establishment of the status quo in government. So in general, I believe there are some basic common sense issues that you should consider before you decide to jump into a political campaign. First, if you have time and you're planning in advance, I always suggest you start working on other people's campaigns and volunteering as much as possible so that you get a better sense of how the chaos and the mechanics of the process actually work. This will also give you more time to kind of build up a network of potential supporters in the future, and it will help you better understand if this is a road that you definitely want to go down. If you start doing this basically 2 or more years in advance of the year that you think you might want to campaign, you're going to benefit greatly from the time that you invest in advance. As part of this process, you should study the job a bit so that you really understand what they do, how it works, what they can't do, and how their office interacts with others. What is the actual budget? How has the money historically been spent? How many people actually work in that department? Who are their biggest vendors and why? Who funds your political opponents and why do they do that? Do your homework and know the details as best you can. Now, secondly, there are some basic personality traits that you should have if you want the outcome of the election to be tipped a bit more in your favor. And if you don't have these traits, it's just going to be a lot harder process than you might realize. It really does help if you like people. And if you're a genuine person, Can you actually meet thousands of people a month, shake their hands, knock on their doors, speak to them, and interact with them, and still retain your sanity? I found very private people or new candidates who really are not comfortable with crowds or the public. They do not do well in a political campaign. And frankly, most people can tell if you're just trying to fake it. If you don't like people, please don't run for public office because you will hate the campaign and the job if you accidentally win anyway. Now, I'm less concerned about whether you're comfortable speaking in front of a public audience. I've actually watched many people transition from being a terrible public speaker to becoming a very good, at least at the mechanics, in a pretty short time. However, most of the time, I believe this is just another skill, again, that you might want to hone years in advance if you don't have the skill already. Some people already have jobs or careers that require them to speak in front of audiences already, and this is actually very helpful if you want to run for public office. Thirdly, are you thin-skinned? Do you hold grudges and then lash out when you're provoked by people who may not be fair, smart, or honest? You need to look deep inside yourself and imagine yourself in situations where people are trash-talking you and your family on social media sites. Maybe they're trolling your Facebook page and asking crazy questions repeatedly in public settings. Or where you have to repeat your statements many, many times in a row without it getting cumbersome and old, or at least without it being obvious that you feel that way. And again, I believe a lot of people can't really imagine what this is like, and they become rapidly embittered during a political campaign because they didn't realize that this happens to everyone. And it doesn't matter how honest or correct you might be. Nothing will prevent this from happening to you. And the higher profile, the political position that you're kind of seeking, how higher profile that might be, the more drama and pressure inevitably is going to come your way during the campaign. So if you're running for school board in a small district, you may really not experience this much. But if you run for state governor, you're going to get avalanched with drama from many sources, particularly if you appear to have even the slightest chance of being competitive in your race. If you're running a joke campaign, people are going to ignore you. But if you're serious, it can be filled with lots of drama. Fourthly, what network of contacts do you bring to the political campaign? Now, this is actually super critical, and I'm just telling you from having witnessed hundreds of campaigns from inception to final election, both successful and failures, this is really far more critical than most people realize. So here's what I mean by this. Your network, sometimes you might call it your Christmas card list or your community connections or whatever you might call it. These are essentially people who know you. They're people you can contact directly, and they will probably be willing to help you in some way. If you're running for a small school board race, you may need a few dozen people. If you're running for governor or statewide office, you will need tens of thousands of them on that list. Now, this is one of the most overlooked aspects of a candidate running for office because there's a tendency to believe that just because they put their name on the ballot maybe and you signed on the dotted line and you paid your filing fee, that people are suddenly going to become beating down your door to help you in your glorious and righteous campaign to save the world. This illusion is always shattered when you find out that this just isn't true. And let me give you some examples for how this really manifests itself in reality. I actually know a candidate who ran for a city council seat, and he was able to get contributions from over 300 people, supporters, at his very first kickoff event for the city council. That might sound easy to you, but I know incumbent legislators who even struggle getting that kind of volume right now. And they're very vulnerable because of it. Now, this guy, this running for the city council, he actually won that race soundly because the incumbent couldn't even imagine that outcome after 8 years in office, and he crumbled. Now, I know a city council candidate who had a phone list, for example, of over 25,000 people in his community because he'd actually been organizing the softball leagues and other sports leagues for over 2 decades before he decided to run. And this was actually a list of people who knew him. They worked with him, and he apparently was pretty capable, so they voted for him when he ran for office, easily overwhelming the incumbent. Now let's look at an even larger campaign for a statewide office of some kind, and then consider the fact that there's actually 4.8 million registered voters in Washington state right now. And during the last presidential cycle, over 4 million voted. Now, how can you reach out and convince 2.1 million, for example, of people to actually vote for you over the other guy? Now, that's assuming you can make it to the primary. If you're conservative, the media will not accurately report anything about your campaign, so your nuances mostly are lost. Unless you have just a major scandal, they'll cover that. You don't get any free media. The bad guys, they'll get free media. The incumbent can make free media happen, but you're not usually going to get it. So a political campaign is essentially an advertising campaign, selling a political candidate to the people or customers who you hope will vote for you. As anyone who has worked in advertising can tell you, it isn't cheap. And often advertising campaigns take years before they produce tangible results. It's very hard to suddenly just appear and then sweep everywhere. Whatever your plan to advertise yourself, you will need a plan to do so. It's going to have to be a real one, and it isn't free, and it should just be realistic. Now, I'm not specifically trying to discourage people from running for office, but I am trying to encourage people to consider carefully the positions that you have a realistic chance to be competitive running for office before you actually take that step and file. It really isn't glamorous or as professional or as amazing as it probably looks from the outside. Raising money is actually very tough. Time management is not as simple as people expect. Your time is really no longer your own during a campaign. No more date nights or soccer practices or mowing your lawn or vacation or time on your hobbies. Again, during the campaign, that's all gone. So anyway, I'll be doing a series of videos about some races where it doesn't look like many or even any people have showed up yet. If you can check all the boxes, you have a plan, and you're prepared, great. Maybe that's you to fill that role. However, if you can't, then please be prepared to show up in a different capacity, support and help others who actually can win. Be self-aware, be realistic, and basically adapt how you show up to the skills and expertise that you can bring to the process. This is going to be a crazy election year, I know this, and I suspect, but in the end, it's going to be you and I and many thousands of others who have similar goals and who are willing to engage, who will make the difference, as always, because the future does belong to those who show up.